Brendon Urie, Panic at the Disco, Erik, Zachary, iHeartRadio, man. So this is always such a cool moment for me. I'm truly a huge fan of yours.
Thanks, man.
But right off the bat, we got to talk about High Hopes.
Yeah, cool.
Monster of an anthem. And what's kind of cool about this for me is like for fans like myself, now we've been there for Pretty Odd. We've been there through Vices and Death of a Bachelor. But for a lot of people, this is kind of the reintroduction to Panic at the Disco.
Sure.
Some people haven't heard you, not for no fault of your own, but haven't heard you since I Write Sins.
Of course.
And it's kind of a cool moment because people are discovering High Hopes. They'll add it to their playlist. Yeah. And then they kind of get to binge Panic at the Disco.
I love
and
that.
go through like all of these memories and albums for the last couple of years. So do you have a message for maybe someone that's kind of binging the voice that is Brendon Urie right now?
Well, if you're binging some Panic at the Disco, first of all, thank you. It's quite an undertaking, so be prepared. But yeah, it's really cool, like, to be on stage and be playing the newer stuff, like see it, High Hopes go off in the crowd, seeing younger kids coming to the shows singing it, like that's just such a special thing. We do Bohemian Rhapsody, we see the older parents singing it, and like to be able to bring all these people together, it's really amazing. And if they can go through the catalog and like hear all this different stuff, like you're hearing. I mean, I always compare an album to like a yearbook. You're hearing like where I was at that moment in time.
Yeah.
So it's there's a little. I don't know what the right word would be. I don't want to offend anybody, but like it's a little like multiple personality. There's like different ways of
you
doing
were in
songs.
different emotions at different times, different stages of your life.
Absolutely,
man.
absolutely. I think it's just cool, like that they listen to it.
Right, and I mean they're finding sometimes even deeper cuts. Like Colorful or something.
Oh my God,
you might not
Deep cut.
have heard. Yeah. Exactly. Speaking of Bohemian, I mean obviously this is something that you guys have been known for doing for so many years now.
Yeah.
Last time that you and I got a chance to talk, you had just cut the studio version of Bohemian for Suicide Squad.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's it like to produce something for a film before it's made, and then now you have like Greatest Showman, where you get asked to do something after it's already a crazy success? Like no pressure at all. Do the title track for the film.
That was actually crazy how that happened, because the February of 2017, before I went to do Kinky Boots, before the movie came out, they sent us this demo of it, and they were like, we think it could be a cool Panic song. I was like, I love this song, absolutely. So I literally woke up at 9, started cutting vocals at 10 with no warm-up, and I was just like, oh, yikes,
Yeah.
And then when the movie came out, they're like, hey, we thought about releasing this album. Remember that song you did? And I was like, yeah. They're like, so we kind of produced it and we're going to put it out. And I was like, can I recut the vocal? They're like, no time.
Wow.
So they had to go in and just use my demo vocals and just put it out. I was like, oh, there we go.
That's crazy.
But that's like something that's so cool to be a part of. I mean, I'm a huge Hugh Jackman fan, and I mean everybody involved in that, Zendaya and Zac Efron, like all these beautiful people. But it's really crazy, to be asked to do something like that is like obviously a huge honor.
And it's so cool how eclectic. I'm actually really good friends with Max Schneider, who got to do the other side on that too.
Max, dude.
And it's just it's so many different styles, and you've kind of become a version of that with Panic at the Disco. People used to just know it as pop punk or emo punk or whatever they wanted to consider it. Now you've kind of delved into the crooner style, and you've dove into more pop now with High Hopes, and I mean you're all over the place. So that's so cool. And speaking of all over the place, and speaking of the covers that are Bohemian, you've covered Dua Lipa, you've covered Weezer, you've covered Girls Just Want to Have Fun. Have you ever tried to cover like during sound check and you're like, this is gonna be great, and then you do it and you're like, we're gonna leave it. No, it's not the right sound for us.
That's how most of them come about. Like Bohemian, that's how it started. I started playing like the intro piano thing, and I was like, man, this would be a cool song to actually learn, because we would get a minute into the song and be like, well, this is the hard part with all the vocals. How are we gonna do this live? So it took me 3 weeks to build the track and the tempo mapping and everything for the show for Bohemian. And like I remember a producer friend sent me. Like it was being passed around through a bunch of songwriters and producers, like the stems for Bohemian Rhapsody, and I was like, "Oh my God!"
That's like a gift from God. You're like, "Wait, what?"
Dude, for anybody it would be a gift, but for some like an audiophile or like a producer, you sit there and you're just like, "How in the hell?" You're getting this deconstructed thing. Like they had 8 different instruments on one track that was labeled drums, and it's like, well, that's not just drums. There's like a guitar lead line on a harmony, and then like they had to bounce it out in like 6 harmonies. It was like very involved.
You could truly break it down.
You could break it down, but with
crazy.
covers and stuff like that, it usually starts in like sound check. We'll just mess around and be like, oh, this would be kind of fun, It's like how Girls Just Want to Have Fun started. Like we just started playing it.
That's wild.
Yeah,
man.
it's a good
Speaking
time.
of breaking it down, man, I want to take you back about 15-ish years.
Okay.
You guys go into Record Fever. And you have this moment where you sit down and you're recording it, and you were already had this like rock star ego going on for a second.
Oh yeah.
And you have a sound engineer saying, okay, tune your instruments. and it takes you a lot longer than he was prepared for you to take.
Yeah.
And you realize, okay, we're a little bit newer to this than we thought.
Oh yeah.
Now, 15 years later, some odd 15 years, have you seen another band go through that and you're like, okay, guys, it's going to be cool. Here's some advice. If so, who?
Yeah, I guess, trying to think. No, I guess not to that level.
Okay.
Like I went into the studio with 5 Sauce. Like 5 Seconds were, it was 2 of them. It was Luke and Ashton, and they came to the studio, and I was giving them the song basically. I was like, hey, I wrote this thing. Let's finish the bridge together. Let's work on a couple things.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but they were like pretty established at that point. They had a deeper pop sensibility and melody sensibility than I had in the beginning. So I don't know if it's fair to compare it, but I think that was the earliest stage of a band that I had witnessed firsthand in the studio. And I was like, man, these kids are like so on it, you know? Like you would say one note and they'd be like, oh, maybe I'll try it this way. And then they have 5 other ideas and you're like, well, that's why
I knew that when I was your age.
I was like, man.
I would be selling out MSG 7 nights a week for the entire year.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not that you don't already do that, man.
No, but it's like a different, next level thing. Yeah.
That's crazy. Speaking of 5 Sauce too, you know, and you got the chance to work with them. Alex Gaskar's written with them before, from All Time Low.
Yeah.
And he's got that new side project with Mark Hoppus, Simple Creatures.
So cool.
As someone that's of an equal, frontman of your band and kind of is the entity that is, Panic at the Disco, have you felt a desire to okay, I'm still doing Panic, but I want a different name to do some other projects under?
Oh, yeah. I mean, any features I've done, I think sometimes it'll say Panic and sometimes it'll just say Brendon Urie, but, it's hard to, find that line sometimes because I think it comes down to that last minute decision where I go, this feels like Panic. This makes me feel like this would be most conducive to a Panic live show and to a Panic album. This would tell the better story of that through line because I was more in that mentality when I was creating it. But yeah, with the features and stuff, I usually just use my name because it's kind of a separation from what the band has been doing. So I can step out and try a hip hop track, or I could do whatever it is, like a jazz album or something.
Well, you just jumped on Roses too with Benny Blanco.
And Juice WRLD. Yeah, he was dope, man. What a talented kid. Man.
Yeah.
20 years old, and I'm like, bro.
Another moment where you're like, if only you knew
dude,
what I went through.
No, not even that. It's the level of talent this kid has.
Yeah.
I sat in a room with him for 10 minutes after we did this interview with Benny, and our homie Andrew was playing guitar, and he just riffed for 10 minutes and did 10 different songs in that 10 minutes, and I was
crazy.
Just freestyling it. And I was like, was that all off the top of your head? He's like, yeah, man.
He's like, dude, but he's so chill about it.
He's so chill.
He's just nah, it's
so
cool.
unassuming and humble. I was like, bro.
Well, I kind of had that proud dad, even though I had nothing to do with it moment, because I was at the VMAs and I talked to Juice there. I was supposed to talk to you, and we just caught each other at different times.
Yeah.
And he was talking about, I Write Sins was such a huge influence to me, and then I saw the release with you, and I was like, that happened. I manifested that. You're welcome.
I love that happened too. We're both just fans of each other. Dude, that's really cool to hear.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's
he's a cool dude.
And just to really riff off of what you were saying real fast, when you hear something and it's a Panic album song versus Brendon Urie, High Hopes. I would imagine when you were writing it, when you were even recording it, you didn't have the full horn section.
Right.
So when was the first time you heard it with the full horn section backing you, the strings in its entirety, and you're like, oh shit?
When we recorded it, we went to Ocean Way Studios in LA.
Wow, okay.
We went there for a couple different things, and it just didn't feel right. So we ended up going to United, which used to be an old Capitol recording where Sinatra did a bunch of stuff. Hendrix and Petty and all these gods recorded there.
Which, putting aside your nerdness with all of that aside,
Dude.
you're like, I'm calm, I'm good.
I was like, I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you could feel the ghosts breathing down your neck and those kinds of, it was a beautiful thing. But yeah, when we were sitting in that room, our really good friend Rob Mathis, who produced Pretty Odd, and he's done strings from that album till now, and hopefully he will continue to do it for us. But he brought in a pretty massive 20-piece orchestra, and we were like, man, this is gonna sound so cool. Then we brought in 12 horn players, this is gonna sound so big. We started to record it, and I almost started crying, and I looked over at my producer friend Jake Sinclair, and I just kind of looked at him, and he was just like,
we did it.
He didn't even say a word. He's such an unassuming, quiet guy. But he just shook his head. He was like, I have chills, bro. I was just like, oh my God. And at that moment, because hearing the first time that I heard it, our friend Ilzy sent me the hook, and she basically had the chorus done, and I was like, I couldn't have written it better myself if it was from the heart. This is exactly what I want to talk about, my childhood. Let's talk about the dreams I had when I was 10 and all of this. And then when the horns came in, it was like, oh, man.
Don't cry.
Do
not cry. Yeah.
It's just medieval pop, dude. Right. It's bam, 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 regal.
And then adding, it's very Game of Thrones fanfare-esque a little bit.
Very fanfare.
But just adding, the little element too, as I'm sure you know this, but Frank Sinatra used to record and he would invite people just to studio sessions because he always needed to play for someone.
Yes.
So you kind of there was probably an element of that too, where like, oh my, I can't handle anything else.
There's always a performance aspect in the studio, and like especially after reading a lot about that Sinatra would like invite all the interns, get them ice cream just so that he would have an audience to sing to, like, and they're just swooning, and like there's not a dry seat in the house, you know what I'm saying? And he would just like flaunt that because he knew he performed differently in front of crowds and in front of people, and I like that. So like I bring over to my house like just friends to come hang out, and if we end up writing something and recording it that day, even better. And I think it just fits a mood better, and it kind of, you cultivate a vibe. I say that a lot because it's like the best way I can describe it. You're like building this emotion together, and whatever's going to happen, everybody is essential to be in that room.
It's just a tangible energy.
It's a butterfly effect. Like if that one person wasn't there, different emotion, different vibe, you know?
That's crazy. All right, 2 last quick questions. One just out of nerdness for me that has to do with wanting to be a performer and being on stage and whatnot. Spoiler alert, so stop now if you haven't seen Pray for the Wicked tour yet.
Oh, yeah.
But you enter the stage on a, what do they call it, a toaster lift or a
we
pop-up
call it
lift?
a toaster, yeah, human toaster.
How much practice was necessary to make sure you land that? Because, I mean, you fly out of the stage.
Yeah, there wasn't practice, really. I did it one time before the first like leg of the tour, first time we did it, because I kind of understood the physics of it. I was like, I get it. It's going to, all the hydraulics are jumping me out of this thing, so I just need to flex it. But, you know, the guy who does it is this really, really great guy, and he was like, you know, you can get higher up. And I was like, I know I can, but the timing is so particular because it's like I'm in the air and then it's silver lining, and I want to hit silver by the time I'm on the ground. So I was like, I don't want to be up here, silver lining, like, you know, like kind of thing. But I think it's, you know, it wasn't too crazy, but I think I've kind of just always been that energetic kid. And so it just kind of made sense.
Totally, man. All right, super last question.
Okay.
Super last minute question.
Okay.
You're someone I always wanted to share a drink with. This is not that time or place.
Okay.
Someday, mark my words. But
got all excited. I was
not
like,
because I'm a fan, not even because, you know, I enjoy the music, but because I work in the industry and I've just enjoyed and admire how you navigate your career. So who's someone living, because obviously there's a lot of legends, but living that maybe you even met, maybe you even worked with, but you haven't gotten to share that drink with yet?
Ooh. Oh, buddy.
We'll add the footnote that there's many,
There
but
are
if you had to pick
very-
one off the bat.
One off the bat, heroes. Man, I don't even know if she drinks, but like to sit down with somebody like Celine Dion, honestly, I would be like, I don't even know. I think it would be too much of a fangirling situation for me because I would just like, I would be like, just what is happening? I would probably hyperventilate into my drink. I don't even know like what I would ask her, but I think I would mostly be asking vocal questions, like the attenuations and stuff. But she's just led such an amazing life, had so many milestones and accomplished so much, and is still so passionate about what she does. When you watch her still today, you know, with Josh Groban or whoever she's doing something with, it's like just daunting, like what she puts herself through, and she's just legendary. And I think that she would have many great stories and just so much wisdom. You know?
Well, speaking of which, man, I mean, you're achieving that yourself. I know you're super humble about it, but I mean, you've reached so many milestones, and as a fan and as someone that gets to work alongside you, sometimes it's just so cool to see, man. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you.
Honestly.
We always have good times. I appreciate it.